We are on the afternoon break of the third day of questioning of Peter Francis, who is the undercover police officer who infiltrated anti-racist groups and reported on family justice campaigns. Notably, that was between 93 and 97. Notably, he went whistleblower in 2010. I'm joined by Beth Riley from New Internationalist these days. Used to come to all the hearings of the undercover policing inquiry, but you haven't been that much for a while. What have you made of what we've heard today?
Yes, it's always difficult to kind of go back into it again because it's so dense. Yeah, you must be like the most clued up person on all of it. But
we're in a room full of lawyers who like know a lot more than me. Yeah, banquet. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think everyone was waiting a long time for Peter Francis to give evidence, because I don't believe he's spoken publicly since the early teens.
Not for quite a while. Yeah, no. I mean, he did some stuff back in 2013, quite a bunch of stuff in 2013, but yeah, nothing for quite a while.
But yeah, I guess a few things kind of stood out for me. One of them just was kind of amusing in one sense, but also very, very serious in another, in that there is wrong information on the file of Dave Smith,
right? Yeah,
which is the Dave Smith who's involved in support for blacklisted construction workers, and on his file it says that he's violent and carries a knife. But Peter Francis was saying, that this could be another Dave Smith, and that there were lots of Smiths, and he didn't know what Smith was this and that, yeah. So
it didn't sound very credible to me. It sounded like he'd been caught out, that he'd like just labeled someone as being violent and carrying a knife, and then was like, oh God, well, I've since found out who this person is properly, and it's like, oh no, I wouldn't have said that. Oh, clearly I did. Oh, there must be more than one Dave Smith. I mean, it could be confusion, but. Yeah, it wasn't very credible. I mean, as he said, the horrific consequences of this, because we know that information got leaked to the Consulting Association, the Economic League, that meant that on his file, which led to his blacklisting from his trade, that like they thought he was a violent person who wielded a knife.
Yeah, exactly. Huge consequences for his livelihood. Yeah, and then kind of touching on the campaign for Brian Douglas, who was killed by police in 1995. And Peter Francis reported on his family and the campaign seeking justice for his murder. Anyway, there was a lot of chat about whether he infiltrated or reported on it. Anyway, it was more reporting.
But that was quite interesting, actually, because he explained really that it wasn't that he was pressing people for information from these campaigns, but that him as the branch secretary of Highbury and Islington, Hackney and Islington, sorry, a militant youth against racism in Europe, and involved in militant labour, that people would just volunteer information to him. They thought they were speaking just to a branch secretary, and they wanted to try and get people involved in the campaign from that branch. So he would gather information from all sorts of places. I mean, in this case, he talked about a woman, Ruth Woodhouse, who was on the steering committee, and he was asked, was this someone who was looking to push the campaign in a certain direction, as it was claimed that the white left was trying to do? And she, oh no, she was a very pleasant, very caring person who cared deeply about the issues. But as far as Special Branch is concerned, she was subversive. So subversive people do subversive things.
It's a fair game.
Yeah.
But then, whereas most, police witnesses before would stop there, the difference with watching Peter Francis is that he is, someone who's reflected a lot on his deployment and regrets some things, whereas others, even if they do, they don't say that they do. And he's like, yeah, I'm not justifying it, but that's just the mentality that they had.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and he sort of expressed a low point in his moment in his deployment was when he was standing at a candle-lit vigil with relatives of Brian Douglas outside Kennington Police Station, where he had been arrested and murdered.
Killed with CS gas. Yeah, and that was quite. I mean, that was quite telling. That was the lowest point of his career. That he felt like the guilt of just being there with the family, reporting on them at the time of like great sorrow. That they just lost their family member. They're, demanding justice, demanding accountability, and he's there trying to undermine it.
Yeah, I mean, that just really shows how repugnant these deployments were. That you can't really get worse than that.
Yeah, no, really grim. One thing which really stuck out to me was the report on militant Labour's youth policy. And it was just something, it really like kind of highlighted a whole sort of strand within the SDS reporting. It was pointed out that there was an interest in the youth policy of militant Labour because how it related to public order events. And David Barr was like, it's not public disorder events that you ever put, it's always public order events. Was their concern just about members of the public gathering? And like, what was the threshold of risk for an event? And, Peter Francis's answer, I thought, was very revealing, because he said, well, it would take a great deal for something not to be of interest. It would mean that, guaranteed there was nothing was going to happen whatsoever. And he talked about some very small events where it was very strong coverage already, that perhaps, and he would still write a pro forma for that, but maybe that wouldn't go anywhere because it wasn't that important an event. But generally, basically, that if there was any kind of gathering, the SDS wanted to know.
Yeah. And this is what the whole inquiry has really confirmed to people who were spied on, that it was about spying on democratic, activities of everyday citizens because they thought differently from how the police and the government at the time did.
Yeah, there was also a bunch of stuff about trade union affiliation. We saw a report on a Unison lobby of Hackney Town Hall. And within it, it's pointed out that nothing within that report was in any way anything less than public, that Unison were cooperating with the police. Why was he reporting this? And he said, well, if we go back to his previous report, the one from the Morecambe National Conference of Militant Labour, where it said that they were pivoting away from anti-racism towards industrial strategy. This was just confirming what he'd said in the previous report. So that's why it was important, which really shows that the level to which, supposedly, trade union activity wasn't something they were meant to be reporting on. Yeah, and this is just very, very quite boring. I mean, it's a lobby, of a local council by a trade union. Quite boring kind of industrial relations stuff, but that's getting covered.
Yeah, all recorded and held there for however many years. Yeah, and there was a report that, what sort of document was it that was brought up in the first part of the hearing, which was about the purpose of the SDS, and the secondary purpose was...
Oh, right. So that was a reporting, it was basically a style guide about how to write reports. It was written by John Webb, who was in the back office at the time. It was a bit unclear who it was for. Maybe his successor, I guess, was what it kind of looked like it was for. But that's that document.
Yeah, but it just also said the secondary purpose was to collect personal information on campaigners who may become prominent in the future. So again, the idea that anyone's fair game to be a subject of surveillance. Yeah.
I mean, that's the theme that's run through it. This feeding into vetting, what they call vetting, what we call blacklisting, was just such a key part of their role, right? And there was a direct question actually about whether the information, if the Consulting Association would ring up SDS, and he said, well, no, it wasn't quite like that. There wasn't a direct line, but certainly, information would move at a different level to where the SDS were, perhaps at special branch level. Something that was, as a field officer, he wasn't really made aware of.
Yeah.
But what's your overall kind of assumption, like kind of feeling about Peter Francis as a witness? Do you think he comes across as credible?
It's interesting because you kind of see the he's spoken about how he suffered from PTSD afterwards, and severe identity confusion about who he was, and that comes through a lot. I mean, he'll say something like when he was talking about Dave Smith apparently saying things like looking back to the glory days of beating up fascists or whatever it was, and feeling this excitement for potential violent disorder, and Peter Francis said that he would be in that moment he would be excited for that too, and then he kind of caught himself and was like, not now, in my head, thank you very much. Just a bit like, okay.
Yeah, there is that thing, isn't there? That, a lot of the language he uses as well. He starts talking about if you're with Dave Smith and you came across a couple of BNP and you wanted to have a chat with them. A lot of anti-fascist terminology about physical anti-fascism. It creeps into his language quite regularly. He talks about combats, about Combat 18, and Reds, about Red Action. He's very much steeped in that language, and you can see the kind of the identity confusion right in front of you, really, can't you?
What have you thought about him?
I think it's interesting. I think he's not well. He's clearly not well, and this is a very stressful process he's currently going through. I think he is telling his truth. I believe that. I think that his inability to remember violent events comes across occasionally as quite self-serving, because he does remember that certain people were violent, but yet he can't remember any detail about stuff. And I get the impression, I mean, it's often the case in male culture around the exaggeration of violence. I feel he's taking part a bit in that, and talking about things which may have just been pushing, shoving, throwing of things, and acting as if there's some sort of ultra-violence that's taking place, which I just don't really buy, to be honest. I mean, I think he lost a lot of credibility with what he said about Paul Heron, which was this morning, claiming that he was violent, which I'm not being funny, but like it's just not credible, right? Do you know what I mean?
Younger years now.
I mean, even in his younger years, I mean, there's just some people. Do you know what I mean? It's not. This is only a short break. I've noticed everybody else has disappeared. We probably should go back in. Just quickly, I was spoken to at lunchtime by one of the inquiry lawyers, saying that I was on my final warning about reporting. Oh yeah, the two Dave Smiths. Yes, was there two Dave Smiths? This is Dave Smith commenting. Was there two Dave Smiths, Dave? Do you remember another Dave Smith? Let us know, because is it true that there was confusion about this, or is it that in fact that Peter Francis is just confused? Did you ever carry a knife? Which is another, I mean, like quite wild
Not for
thing.
construction.
Yeah, for construction purposes or not. We should go back in. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you. They might be sitting late today, so it might be another break, but we'll be doing another video either way. Thanks for now.